Hey guys, my name is Matsumoto, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you'd like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. The first question for the day is, what do you think about the two new leaked operators coming to Siege? Well, I will say that if this information is true, and we do need to take it with a grain of salt because it is a leak, that these two new characters are definitely going to be changing things up next season. The offensive operator, for example, is apparently going to be a mix between Cav and Vigil. They'll be able to silent step around the map so they can have a more of a stealthy approach, but they can also make themselves immune or invisible to cameras. That combo sounds terrifying. We already have very aggressive operators on offense, like Ash, for example, that just gets into the objective room really quickly and catches you by surprise. But now imagine a stealthy character on offense that you can't even see on the cameras. So many operators on defense rely and they revolve around this information gathering. Maestro, Mozzie, of course you've got the secondary gadget, there's Valkyrie, there's Echo. All of them would be countered by this specific character. Like that has a lot of potential to be incredibly powerful. Now I'd imagine that it would be very similar to Vigil, where there would be some sort of distortion or effect on the screen that would allow you to know that this new character is nearby. If that wasn't the case, I honestly think that this would be blatantly overpowered. Like, that would be a bit too much, but even still, that is still going to make this guy incredibly hard to pinpoint down and know exactly where they are. And so overall, I'm really curious to see how this kind of a character performs for the offensive side. Vigil, when he was first introduced, a lot of people thought that he was going to be underwhelming because you had a general idea of where he was located, but lo and behold, he actually became one of the best roamers in the game because it was really difficult to pinpoint his exact location, and he could slow down the progress of the offensive team. Now, of course, that really doesn't apply on the other side of the coin because you don't really need to slow down the progress of defense, but if you can sneak on in or they really don't know where you're located, that could be an incredibly powerful combo. We're just gonna kind of have to wait and see. Now, as for the defensive operator, apparently they're gonna have some sort of gadget that will allow them to be immune to flashes, but also allow them to see through smoke. Now, my initial reaction to this is that this is probably Ubisoft's attempt at trying to stop the current meta where you just simply throw down a smoke screen and then plant the diffuser. As a defensive character, if you don't have the right operators to deal with this, like an Echo or a Maestro, it can be really difficult to actually counter those kinds of tactics. Like, you really have to work around it, and if offense was able to take out said gadgets, you're kind of left high and dry and they can get a free plant off. With this character on your team, though, that is going to completely shift things into the favor of the defensive side, and it's going to change up that paradigm. They throw down a smoke screen, assuming that it's going to be in their favor. He, of course, can see through it. Offense can't unless they have a glass, and then he can just destroy everyone that tries to actually plant said diffuser. Like, that would definitely be mixing things up. The concerns I have with this operator, though, and the reason why I'm a bit skeptical, is what if you pair this with an actual smoke on your team? He throws down his gadget, it activates, and while yes, that does require a little bit of coordination and teamwork, which is always a good thing to try to promote, he just does that. You sit on the opposite end, and he can see everyone on the opposite side, and offense isn't going to be able to have that kind of clarity. The other reason why I'm a bit skeptical is that Ubisoft has already shown that they're not really fond of the way that Glass works right now, and to implement a new character that works just like that, but even better, really, because he can't even be flashed, that's the other component of this, that also seems like a weird direction that they would take after making such a dramatic shift in the way that Glaz performs. Now, the downside of this operator, of course, though, is that he can't lay down his own smokescreen, and so maybe that's the one big limiting factor. It relies on offense kind of falling into their own trap, and as long as they realize that this character is there, they won't fall for it. And so while his gadget might be a bit of a deterrence so that they don't throw down the smokescreen, at the end of the day, if they don't throw any flashes or smokes, his gadget really doesn't provide all that much of a benefit. And so you would be better off using another character or bringing another operator that could have done more, like an Echo, for example. In general, though, I'm really curious to see if this is the direction that they're going to be taking with the upcoming DLC. They sound ridiculously powerful, but maybe in practice, they're not going to be as strong as they actually sound on paper, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. The next question comes from Carl, and it is, what are your thoughts on Ubisoft changing where the camera position is for your character? So it's to my understanding, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the reason why Ubisoft slightly changed the position of the camera was that this is one of the ways that they were trying to resolve the crouch and lean spam problem, which I think is amazing. It was becoming a pretty big issue. But it also had maybe some unintended consequences. Now maybe this is just simply because it's the start of the new season, I haven't put enough time into it just yet, but I've noticed already that the camera position has resulted in some pretty frustrating moments. There's been a lot of times this season where I am convinced that I am behind cover. There's no way anyone has a line of sight against me. Lo and behold, half a second later, I get taken out by someone that I didn't even see. I watch their camera, and then for some reason, like a fourth of my body is sticking out around the corner, and I didn't even realize that. Now, maybe this is just me having terrible positioning, and honestly, that's probably a big factor, but I also think that they changed some things that they may need to dial in a bit more and make some more adjustments. And so let me know what you guys think about this topic. Have you noticed what I've been experiencing? Is this just all on me and I'm bad? That's probably the reason why. Give me your guys' thoughts down below. I liked the fact that Ubisoft is trying to make some steps to resolve the crouch and lean spam problem, but it does seem like they've tweaked some things a little bit too far and it's resulted in some misalignments. But once again, this just might be my experience. The next question comes from Anthony, and it is, have you heard about the hitbox changes in Apex Legends, and do you think it's going to make the larger Legends finally viable? Well, we really won't know how much of an impact these changes are going to make for Apex Legends, but I'm really hopeful that it actually does change up the meta significantly and these other characters become much more viable. Now, thankfully, in a Reddit post, they did mention that the hitboxes are now going to be a lot more reasonable, and at least internally, it's had a pretty dramatic impact. Gibraltar, Caustic, and Pathfinder should now be a little bit harder to hit, which is really fantastic news. Now, I realize a meta is always going to be established. There are always going to be characters that people gravitate towards, and that's okay. But to have such a disparity between all of them is something that I'm glad that they're trying to address. It gets pretty tedious to always go against teams where it's a Lifeline or a Bloodhound, and then you got a Wraith and a Bangalore. Seeing those characters over and over and over again does get a bit repetitive. And so my hope is that these larger characters are finally going to see more action, and they're not going to be at such a big disadvantage. This game already has a pretty small pool of characters to choose from, but it relies on the variety amongst them to have varied gameplay. And I think that's one of the things that makes this game so much fun, is that you don't know who you're going to go against, and you have to change up your playstyle, change up your strategy, depending on the characters that they have. But right now, because it's the same ones over and over and over again, you don't really have that kind of variety. Now, this will become less of an issue as they introduce more legends, but they do need to fix the ones that we have right now. I would love to play more as Pathfinder. I would love to go against more Pathfinders because I find his abilities to be an incredible amount of fun. And so all in all, I'm really hopeful for the start of Season 1. I'm really crossed my fingers that the changes and adjustments that they've made to them is going to make them a lot more viable, but we are just going to have to wait and see. The next question comes from Ed, and it is, what if Siege added a spectator feature like in CSGO where you could spectate higher ranked games? I think it could help newer players learn some tricks and what things not to do. I think that this is an amazing idea. A long time ago when I played Dota 2, so it's been a very long time, this was one of my favorite resources. I wanted to learn a character, I would just simply watch a higher ranked game and then follow and observe that specific player the entire time. When they would ward, how they would push in, how they would jungle, and all those different things, that was one way that I was able to improve. I was still terrible, but it was a great resource to have. If Ubisoft was able to implement that into Rainbow Six Siege, I think that would be an amazing addition. Now, the downsides, or at least the big roadblocks that I think they would run into, is that I cannot imagine that this would be an easy thing to implement. I think the reason why CSGO and Dota have this already in their games is that this is a key feature of the engine that they have. I have no idea if this is even possible or even feasible with the engine that Rainbow Six Siege is using. Even if it is feasible, it may not be a simple solution. This could take a lot of time and investment on the part of Ubisoft to even develop something like this. And so let me know what you guys think about an observer mode. Do you think that this would be a great addition in a Rainbow Six Siege, or would you rather them focus on bug fixes, improving the netcode, adding more content, and you don't really think that this would add a whole lot of value? Give me your guys' thoughts down below in the comments. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's episode of Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about what we discussed in today's video. Are you excited for the potential 2 new operators coming to Rainbow Six Siege? Do you think that they're way too powerful? How do you think that they would be implemented? Let me know down below. As always, if you'd like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode, you can also leave a comment or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. But until next time, guys, have a good one and take it easy.